What we're going to now is the reason why we're diving into this episode again. So last week or the week before, whenever it was, there was a Sky Sports News put something on Twitter saying Anthony Joshua has just signed up a deal to work with a CBD company. Basically saying they want to have well-regulated CBD products so athletes can, enjoy the benefits that come with said products. I basically went in a bit cheeky and I basically linked our podcast and I said, doesn't really work though, bit of a placebo, isn't it? Or it is a placebo, isn't it? Or something along those lines. Obviously, in hindsight, I probably shouldn't have been as one-dimensional with my comment, but it's Twitter. It's all about getting a bit clickbaity. But yeah, I probably should have been a bit more specific in my wording. But what followed was very interesting. And basically what we're going to do is we're going to go through the carnage that unfolded on Twitter, which was basically a back and forth between myself and someone who, we'll just get into it. Basically, the way we're going to do it is Tom is going to play the I don't know, I forgot his fucking name now. We'll just call him, what do you call him? Jimmy?
Straight away, there's a bias there, isn't there? Because no one wants to agree with Jimmy. Yeah, we're going for Jimmy. I am Jimmy. Little Jimmy.
And I'll be myself, so we're going to be a bit of script reading here.
I did want to play you, but we thought it would just be simpler if you played yourself. You played with yourself, and I played with my Jimmy. Yeah. Rather than Jimmy.
Who's going to do Saqib? Because we did have a third party get involved.
You can be Saqib because I'm in character. I am in character. It's very hard once you, if you're a method actor like me, and I take this very seriously, it's very hard to turn off afterwards. I've had to lock myself away from my own family in fear of what I might do as a method actor. I'm going full on Patrick Bateman. Just to confirm, Saqib is a mutual friend of ours. I've known him for couple of years now, actually, just online. He's a strength and conditioning coach as well. Really highly knowledgeable guy. I think I originally met him. I think we might have been in the same cult, no joke, and then we both kind of left at the same time. That's a story for a different day. But yeah, I am Little Jimmy. So how did this begin, Bill? How did this begin?
Well, I obviously posted that link to the podcast, and then you go off with your first. You've got it up in front of you.
And me, Little Jimmy. I commenced with, and bear in mind, I might ad-lib some extra things. I might go off script here because I am a method actor. Of course it works. CBD, that is. There is just a huge variance on quality and too much expensive crap out there. But if you believe that cannabinoids... I can't believe I fucking managed that in the first setting, Bill. Cannabinoids. I was expecting to fuck that up.
Breaking character already. You're breaking character.
Sorry, yeah. But if you believe cannabinoids... Fucked it up now. But if you believe cannabinoids don't have real-life benefits, you're either stupid or have unrealistic expectations of what you think works means. Works.
There are, of course, applications where it's applicable, but in this regard, it's an article about athletes, which it was, as I said, Sky Sports. Most of the general population are not athletes. If you've got evidence to show that it's worth the price tag in this setting, then fire away. So straight away, I'm asking him for evidence here, which is a nice, easy way. If he sends me evidence and it's good, I'll be like, happy days, let's go. Go on, Tom. Here's his evidence.
First of all, this could just simply have been ended here and there if our little Jimmy had just provided a single citation, a sliver of evidence. A crumb of citation would have done, but little Jimmy instead doubled down and went with my friends in the Netherlands, bit racist by the way, not everyone in Netherlands smokes weed or CBD, who do R&D, that's research and development, with cannabinoids, conducted a trial with a cycling team. The super compensation in the CBD group was 14% more after 12 weeks, an elite level that's potentially huge. So straight away, making big claims there, Bill. Making big claims.
And I responded with enthusiasm. Sounds amazing. Have you got a link to this trial? I'd be interested to see the dose they were given.
I can't say it with a straight face. Nope. That was a private trial that is still ongoing. And as they're working with the team on a variety of cannabinoid combinations and doses to see the differences. But there are thousands of studies and trials available to view very easily. You called it a placebo. It isn't. Look, straight away, big red flag, private trial. So, it's like when you say to someone, I've got a shiny Charizard Pokemon card. And you go, oh, sweet, let's see it. You can't. It's at my dad's house. Well, just bring it in tomorrow. Well, I can't because you can only see it in the dark when you close your eyes. Like, straight away, there's some kind of super secret study club. And look, even then, the guy even said that this super secret research R&D team is still an ongoing trial. Well, if it's still an ongoing trial, then why the fuck are you making conclusions, you absolute donut?
Yeah, conclusion, yeah.
But yeah.
Which is basically how when I replied, I would basically put, are you serious? Bit of a cop-out response. So essentially, you could have made it up, which you could have done. I said, could you please provide these thousands of studies? Because when we did the research for the podcast, I didn't see them. And I'm yet to see these thousands of studies that prove that it's amazing.
And little Jimmy responded with, that's one particular study that I'm personally aware of from thousands out there. However, he couldn't link any of those, 999 extra studies. Do you think I'm going to ask for the early release of an ongoing study for Bill on Twitter? You fucking idiot. You fucking bellend Bill. You cockhole. Back to my actual point, though. You called it a placebo, and it clearly isn't.
So you haven't got anything then. Clearly isn't. What evidence have you got that it clearly isn't? You've just said there are thousands of studies and you've not given me one. You can't cite a super duper secret lab trial, which you can't.
Going back to Tom here, breaking away from method acting, but this is another one of my favourite bits here. I've worked with cannabinoids since early 2017. I don't just make things up. Probably because he's, absolutely razzled on CBD. I don't just make things up, which is what you obviously do, hoping nobody notices. Bearing in mind you also, linked various show notes along with this, which, include all the references and studies mentioned in our original podcast episode. But other than that, looking to Raphael, I'm not pronouncing that, or Ethan Russell, I don't know who that is. There are over 4,000 articles on PubMed. By all means, knock yourself out. So I don't understand why he couldn't cite a specific one to us. I mean, yeah, there are lots of studies on CBD. It just so happens that they all don't really support what he says.
Which we're going to come on to. I basically quoted him back saying, I've worked with cannabinoids since early 2017. I said, your anecdotal evidence is useless, really, isn't it? Out of 4,000, you can't give me any data. Make stuff up and hope nobody notices, ? We literally released an evidence-backed public podcast for people to listen to.
Yeah, I mean, look, just breaking character once again here. When he says, I've worked with cannabinoids since early 2017, in what role did he work with them? Because working on the counter at Holland and Barrett, selling, Steve or Tiffany a couple of CBD vials over the counter is hardly, working within that industry. I'd like to know what kind of role he had here, because it sounds very fucking dodgy. I mean, for all I know, he could have just been hotboxing in the mystery van. I don't know what's going on here. You've got to let me know, Jimmy. You've got to give me some details here. We've got to understand the criteria, what your role was within the CBD industry. But moving on from that, if your evidence-backed public podcast concludes CBD has no use for athletes and in your words is placebo, then I've got news for you. Your podcast is bollocks. And to be fair, he's got a point. It is bollocks most of the time. And if you expect me to take the time out to handpick studies for a random fella on Twitter, well, yeah. But what I do like here is how he's doing the whole face palm emojis and just like he's absolutely... He just cannot believe that someone's asked him to just cite their evidence. So this is someone that is, actively saying there's thousands of studies, then we suddenly went up to 4,000 studies, but he can't believe that Bill from Twitter is asking him to cite a crumb of evidence to support his viewpoint. This is, this is just Normism 101.
At this point, Saqib does jump in, and he
Big Saqib,
plus 3 points. So number one, he put of articles efficacy, something like that, and then 2, placebo is a real phenomenon, not just a name assigned to substances. Number 3, here is a 2020 systematic review on efficacy in sports. Literature on the topic is generally poor, not effective in sports performance as it currently stands. Now, this one was about cannabis in general, I believe. This first one he posted, which obviously isn't CBD, but is from the same family, which is why you can see why he linked it. And then, Jimmy comes back in.
As he always does. Right. Your article clearly states cannabis use in general, not specific cannabinoid use, and looks like it's referring to recreational cannabis use, a totally different ballgame.
Saqib comes back in with recreational usage would have more benefits versus regular use, as it would be a newer stimulus. Number 2, I cited a review. Can you cite anything at all? You're very sure of its effects, and all you had to offer was some private trial. What lab is it being done from? And before you make sweeping incorrect statements of your own about recreational versus regular usage, that's how we adapt to any stimulus. Regular disruptions to homeostasis equals adapted equilibrium to minimise future disruptions. Irregular equals less adaptation, more acute responses. So you can tell Saqib's quite switched on. Saqib goes,
and he's very polite with his messages as well. Actually,
he was very polite.
That's the thing about him. He's always willing to kill people with kindness, which I wish I had. I wish I had that superpower. But yeah, little Jimmy carried on. You're literally trying to compare apples to oranges because they both come under the category of fruit. All I can see is someone trying to articulate a point who has a distinct lack of knowledge on the subject. You know, unlike little Jimmy, who's worked in the industry since 2017. I don't know, maybe working for myprotein.com. I don't know. They don't think they have any CBD.
Saqib rightly questions, where does your in-depth knowledge come from exactly? And then Jimmy doubles down.
As I have said, working with cannabinoids for the last 4 years in Holland and Barrett and a stint in Tesco. In case it wasn't obvious, this is a personal account which I do not use for work purposes. Work in quotation marks, by the way. So now we're getting really dodgy. Maybe he's Pablo Escobar. We don't know. He keeps on going about he's had this experience in the CBD industry, but at not one point has he told us in what role. I can only assume he's selling some very dodgy bottles on eBay. I'm not here to sell a product. I mean, he is, and we'll kind of go into that later on. But I'll correct someone if they talk bollocks. But he's not corrected anyone. He's just simply said, nope, you're wrong, and then knocked aside a crumb of evidence once again. Not a shred. Absolutely fuck all. Citation needed, but citation not delivered.
Saqib responds with, working in what capacity? You shouldn't have any issues verifying your credentials and the lab you work with. Anybody can just say they work in any field.
Prepare yourself for this. Yes, you're right. I've just made it all up. There you go, Bill and Saqib.
Yeah.
R.I.P. Absolutely destroyed. Your argument's gone out the window.
So he's obviously getting a bit childish at this point. Saqib said, never said that. Quite running in circles. Instead of all this rubbish, by now you could have confirmed your credentials and cited evidence.
You've waded into something with fancy university language, attempted to make a point while showing clearly you don't understand cannabinoids at all. FYI, this is Twitter, not a legal forum, so with respect, I don't have to waste time trying to research on your behalf. Bearing in mind, we've literally been posting citation after citation, study after study, and apparently he's doing the research on our behalf, when, once again, not a crumb of evidence. This is just ridiculous.
Saqib then said, you said you've spent the last 4 years in research, and if you're going to call everything bollocks, then please provide citations. You're spouting that. No, so this is what I said, sorry. Let me rephrase that. I said this bit. We're back on to me now. So I said to him, you've spent the last 4 years in research, and if you're going to call everything bollocks, then please provide citations. You're spouting that you're this and that, and it's pretty irrelevant.
I didn't say I was this and that. I said I worked with cannabinoids. I have close friends who have done huge amounts of R&D in the field since 2003. Fucking hell. I called your original tweet bollocks. That's because it is. Yeah.
Oh, dear. Saqib then comes back in with, you realise you wouldn't have to argue so much if you could just provide evidence, right? I mean, this is all we asked for from the very beginning, but yeah.
I've literally maintained all along his tweet was bollocks. It was. I'm not arguing. I'm pointing out something to someone who lacks knowledge yet thinks they can make a sweeping statement that CBD is placebo and have nobody say you're wrong. Also, I want you to know that you are disrespecting a future US Army soldier.
What? Oh,
have you not seen that video?
No.
You've not seen that video? Fucking hell. But I really hope that some people have seen the video.
I probably have.
It's two kids arguing on the street. No, I'm explaining it now because otherwise it's going to have no context. Two kids arguing on the street. And all of a sudden this little dweeby looking, he looks like the Milky Bar kid, goes, you are disrespecting a future US Army soldier. And then it just cuts out there, cringe. And that kid never did join the US Army, by the way. He actually went on to become a SoundCloud rapper.
I don't think that's true, but we'll move on. So this next bit's the only part where I kind of sort of don't go full send again. I basically replied to, in hindsight, I probably should have been more specific. For the most part, I'd say, yeah, for the doses that are commercially sold, placebo. The podcast is there of all our reasoning and evidence. You say I lack knowledge, yet we provided far more data than you. And then Saqib come in saying it was not bollocks, just from a stranger say so, unless evidence was presented against it. So what he's saying there is, this guy can't say what we've said is bollocks unless he provides evidence to say that it's not bollocks. You can't run around saying things are bollocks without giving a justifiable reason.
And obviously,
why it's bollocks.
we'll go more into that once we've concluded
Yeah.
our little Shakespearean, act here.
On, Jimmy's back in.
What part of this being? Why did I just go do a Jimmy Savile accent then? What part of this being a personal account that I deliberately keep separate from work-related subjects? Don't you understand? That's not called circles. That's called saying no. I'm not answerable to Saqib from Twitter. I don't know why that was quite funny.
Yeah, it was quite funny. Saqib then comes back with, then you should have argued through your work account. You've made broad claims about having all this knowledge, but you expect people to take your word for gospel. You're correcting others from your personal account when nobody can verify the source of the info.
The guy has zero knowledge on cannabinoids, yet comes in calling something bollocks because he's got a podcast and cited a few articles. They weren't articles, they were actually peer-reviewed evidence and meta-analysis, but okay, and systemic reviews. And cited a few articles that actually proved CBD had therapeutic benefits. Now that's funny.
Yeah, and then Saqib then comes back in with what we're going to actually look into more. He goes, you haven't verified you know anything either, and at least we use references. Here is another review on CBD itself, and still the results are preliminary and inconsistent. Two qualities common with placebo interventions in their infancy in research. And that paper that he linked there is what we're actually going to go through for the most part of this episode. So if we actually decided to do a part 2 just because of some absolute troll on Twitter, yes, we have. No, we haven't really.
Well,
well.
And as far as I'm aware, this is the first time I've ever seen you have an argument on social media, and it was quite funny to watch because it reminded me back in my day. Because you know me, whenever we see a discussion, when I say discussion, we see an argument happen online, nowadays I always say, know your audience. And what I mean by that is I'm not saying that you need to go into an echo chamber and only discuss things with people who are going to agree with you. But usually you can tell within the first, couple of sentences from someone, you can tell straight away whether they're actually interested in critically thinking or not. Straight away you can tell who's going to double down, who's actually willing to have a discussion, and who's just going to be a fucking bullshitter. This guy was just a bullshitter, and he was just doubling down for the sake of it. Look, for someone to claim that there is an they're somehow related to some super secret, super duper fucking black ops R&D department for CBD, whilst confusing articles for peer-reviewed research, then that's a big red flag. This is a lot of time. Back in the day, I used to argue a fucking hell of a lot on the internet. But what I've discovered now is that sometimes it's better to just sow the seeds of doubt. If someone wants to hear you out, engage in conversation. Go for it. If someone disagrees with you, but they're providing evidence, etc., or they're at least being polite about it, and it sounds like they actually want to have a discussion rather than just double down, then sure, have discussion. Even if they're just going to keep doubling down, but they're kind of polite about it, and they're giving what sounds like good reasons, and they are giving reasons, what they assume is correct at the time, then fair enough, have a discussion. You never know. You might even end up refining your own opinion on something. You might find out that you was wrong, and that's absolutely fine. But in this case, it was just pure. I think it was actually trolling, if I'm being honest with you, Bill.
Yeah,
I think you got taken for a ride.
I did. Normally, as you said, Tom, I normally don't engage with this sort of stuff because I'm far too busy to be dealing with these absolute imbeciles. I think it was simply because I posted the podcast, and because it was our podcast at the top of the thread, I felt like I had to defend our honour. You know what I mean? I felt like I was in that situation where if I just backed down and said no, it makes it look like I'm just saying our whole podcast is shit. So maybe I took it a bit personally, but yeah.
However, that's not to say that other people might not have seen that, taken interest, and then we've sown the seeds of doubt. Because you have posted evidence.
We had 1,000 people look at that tweet.
Yeah, there you go. All it takes is one person out of those 1,000 to change their minds, and then you get a ripple effect. They then go on to tell their mum or their friends or whoever else that's interested in CBD. And I think that's what matters. If you can only change one person's view, you might get a ripple effect. And that's how you make a difference in the industry at the end of the day. Yeah.